Sawadee welcome to Hot Thai Kitchen. So many years ago, I did a video all about fish sauce and how to choose a good one. And in that video, I did a taste test of 5 different fish sauces that are commonly available here in North America. I think the most important takeaway from that video is actually what fish sauce not to get, because the bad ones can be rather awful. But of the 3 recommended ones, Red Boat came out on top in terms of taste, which makes sense because at the time it was the only first press fish sauce that was available. And we'll go through what first press means in a little bit. But as the years have gone by, more brands of first press fish sauces have come onto the market, some with shockingly high price tags. So I thought it's about time we check them out, taste them, and see if they're worth their salt. Let's get started. Before we do the taste test, let's review what exactly is first press fish sauce and how it's different from the regular fish sauce for us plebes. So to understand this, you have to know how fish sauce is made. So fish sauce is made by combining anchovies and salt in a tank and letting them ferment over time. And as the fish breaks down, the liquid from the fish mixes with the salt, and that is the first pressed purest, one might call extra virgin fish sauce, or what we call in Thai hua nam pla, which literally means the head of the fish sauce. Once the first press has been removed from the tank, what you can do is add more salt and more water to the same fish and then get second or third presses out of it, which are obviously more diluted. Now, the way regular fish sauce is made is the manufacturers will combine the first press with subsequent presses in whatever ratio they want, which is why there is such a big range of quality out there. And the really bad one will have so little of actual first press in it that they'll have to start adding color and artificial flavor and all sorts of things to make up for it. So today we're going to do a taste test of 4 different first press fish sauces at different price points. We're going to taste them straight up, taste them in a raw application, and then taste them in a cooked application to see if the differences still remain. Let's meet our contenders. First, we've got the OG, Red Boat, the pioneer in the premium fish sauce market and the one who started the new wave of premium fish sauce. It's a Vietnamese brand, has anchovies and salt as the only 2 ingredients on the list, and protein content, which is indicative of the richness and umami, clocks in at 4 grams, and sodium at 1430 milligrams per tablespoon. The price, calculated based on 300 mils, which is the most common size amongst these bottles, is $8.99 US. Next is Squid Premium. As you know, Squid Regular has been my go-to fish sauce for years. It's a household name in Thailand that's been around for 80 years. Recently, they entered the first press market with their Royal fish sauce. It's saltier than Red Boat at 1620 milligrams of sodium and has 2 grams of protein. Price for 300 mils is $12.99 online, but probably cheaper in stores if you can find it. Our third contender is abalone. This name is not well known at all in the Western market, but it came up a lot when I was researching popular fish sauces amongst Thai people. So I got interested, and turns out you can buy it on Amazon. Least salty of them all at 1380 milligrams of sodium, 2 grams of protein just like squid, but unlike the others, it contains 1% sugar, which we'll discuss in a bit. It is $11.49 for 300 mils on Amazon, but also probably cheaper in stores. Finally, the most expensive fish sauce I've ever seen is Red Boat Family Reserve Maple Bourbon Fish Sauce. This is their 50N fish sauce, which is their highest grade that has been aged in maple bourbon barrels. The protein content is the highest at 5 grams, with sodium at 1450 milligrams. I'm very intrigued by this, especially how well the maple bourbon flavor comes through and whether that's a good thing. The price per 300 mils works out to just about $30. Woo! Breakfast of champions. So we've got all 4 of our fish sauces measured out. Now, right away, the surprising thing for me is how different the color is. Red Boat maple bourbon is by far the darkest. Red Boat regular is pretty dark, and the 2 Thai ones are quite light. Let's do a smell test. Pretty distinct fishiness, definitely stronger than what I'm used to with my regular fish sauce. Much milder, definitely not as fishy. I rather like that. About the same in terms of strength of fishiness, but slightly different in notes. But very close. These two are very, very close. Here we go. So they smell drastically different. The maple bourbon is very strong in both the fishiness and the bourbon. The bourbon definitely is very present. The maple, a little bit, but not quite as strong. Red Boat regular is significantly fishier smelling than both the Squid and Abalone, which are both quite mild. Like I have no problem smelling these two at all. And in fact, I feel like it's quite pleasant. Red Boat regular is pleasant, but it's getting strong. But the fish smell is also more reminiscent of, in Thai we call pla ra, or in Lao pa dek, which is that unfiltered fermented fish. So it's definitely funkier. Let's taste. Red Boat regular. Definitely a longer lasting umami in my mouth than a regular fish sauce. When I taste regular fish sauce, it's like it's salty, it's fishy, and then it kind of dies. But the richness definitely lingers in my mouth more. Squid Premium. This is my first time. I'm very excited. It's very different. Just like the smell, Squid Premium is not as strongly fishy as Red Boat, not as rich and full-bodied as Red Boat, but very pleasant. It still lasts a little bit longer than the regular fish sauce, but definitely I feel like Red Boat is richer. Abalone. Oh, I quite like that. Abalone has added sugar, and I can definitely sense the difference. It is, as something to be taken straight up, it is definitely easier because of that little bit of added sugar. It's not, the saltiness is not quite as jarring, but it still has a lingering, long-lasting umami richness in my mouth. That's very good. Here we go. Maple bourbon fish sauce, family reserve. It's very strong. It feels intense in both fishiness and saltiness. I mean, the bourbon smell, I'm not getting that as much when I taste it because I'm so taken aback by everything else. That's interesting because it's technically not saltier, but it feels saltier because it just tastes so much stronger. Way funkier. I'm not getting the maple at all. I'm gonna do, I need a break after that. Man, like Squid after that is way mild. Like I feel like I can drink this after having that. Man, I gotta say, my favorite is abalone. I think that as a straight up fish sauce anyway, I think that added sugar really makes it go down well. And also just the umami just lasts in my mouth longer compared to Squid. And it's less jarring, less fishy than Red Boat. So as a straight up abalone is what I'd go with. And as a surprise contender, I'm just gonna bring in regular Squid. This is regular, cheap, my go-to Squid, just to make sure I have a good perspective on it, comparing first press with plebeian fish sauce, as I like to call it. Oh, it tastes way saltier. Definitely not as smooth as any of these. and the umami, the richness, the flavor disappears very quickly. Okay, so that's good. That's good. There is a difference. So you're paying for something. Let's talk briefly about protein and sugar content. So protein content in fish sauce basically tells us how much actual fish juice ends up in the bottle. The higher the protein, the more flavorful and umami it's supposed to be. And that pretty much tracks with the tasting. Is the higher the protein content, the fuller body it felt, and the longer the flavor lasts in my mouth. And let's talk sugar, because I think there's a misconception about sugar in fish sauce. Sugar is added to most regular fish sauce in order to help balance the salt. The amount added is so small, though, that it doesn't even register on the nutritional value. And I personally don't think it's such a bad thing, because if it's not balanced, I'm going to have to add sugar in the actual dish anyway to balance it. So it's just kind of a moot point for me. But a lot of people will see that and say, oh, it's not good because it has added sugar. Now, most first pressed fish sauces will choose not to add any sugar to keep it pure. But with the exception of abalone, as we tasted earlier, and of course, it was the one that was the best tasting because of the sugar. Now let's put these to use. I'm going to first use them in a raw form by making prik nam pla, also known as the condiment that improves all foods. It's simply a mixture of fish sauce, lime juice, chilies, and garlic. And it's something that we eat on all sorts of things, but today I'm going to put it over fried eggs and some rice, because that's one of the most typical uses of prik nam pla. Time to eat a food made with fish sauce, because as telling as our straight up taste test was, no one will actually do that, right? So this is the test that matters. This and the next one. Red boat regular. A little bit of yolk, a little bit of white, a little bit of garlic. All right, it's good. Squid premium. You can definitely taste the difference. It's less pungent. Like the difference that we detected in the straight up test does carry through in this application. This is smoother, it's milder. This is good, but it felt quite strong. The long lastingness that I tasted, like the red boat really lasted a long time in the mouth, longer than Squid Premium I felt. To me, that's gone. Like I don't taste that anymore. Like there's too much other stuff going on. Let's see the abalone. I still really, really like that. Just good flavor, smooth. And the addition of sugar in this application, I think, is especially helpful because there's no added sugar in the food itself. It almost tastes like I'm eating rice with Thai fried mackerel, like that lingering flavor. So far, that's my favorite. Finally, our maple bourbon 50N fish sauce. I kind of have a good feeling about this because it felt too strong straight up, but I think in food it will be better. Definitely much easier to take in. Very unique funk. I am starting to lose the bourbon, but let's try again. Okay. As a prik nam pla, I think it's a little too different to use it in a dish that you have an expectation of what it's supposed to taste like. But this fish sauce, the maple bourbon, tastes too different that it's turned this into something else. Is it bad? Not at all. It does have that unique funk that that is reminiscent of pla ra or pa dek. So if you are a person who is not into things like shrimp paste, you might not like this. This might be a little bit too funky for you. But as far as the bourbon and the maple, it's already gone for me. Like there's too much stuff going on. There's not enough in each bite for it to really stand out. For if I didn't know, I would never say bourbon or maple or anything like that. But definitely much better on food than straight up, but a very different beast. I am still loving my abalone. It's still a winner for me. And now, just for some context, let's try also one made from regular fish sauce. All right, good old squid. Regular squid. The difference is definitely less between premium and regular, but it's still there. It still tastes sharper, more jarring, less smooth, less rich. So overall, basically everything that I felt tasting them straight up is still carrying through in this application in terms of the differences between each one. But the one notable thing that I did notice is that the bourbon is gone from this one, and indeed it turns the food into something entirely different. All right, the final taste test is to actually cook with these and to see if the differences will still be detectable then. I am going to make kalampri pat nam pla, or cabbage fish sauce stir fry. It's one of my favorite vegetable side dishes. I make it all the time. I will link to the recipe below. But I chose this recipe because there's only one seasoning in it, and that is fish sauce. So it'll be the highest likelihood that the differences will still come through. The more ingredients you add to the dish, the less likely it is that you will taste any differences between the fish sauces. So I'm giving the sauces their best chance to shine. The stir fry is made simply by sauteing some garlic in oil and then adding cabbage and fish sauce and quickly tossing until the cabbage is wilted, and a little bit of white pepper, and that is done. Super easy. Here we go. Final taste test. My sodium intake is through the roof, but I'm doing it just for you. Regular red boat tastes great, good flavor. Definitely, once it's been cooked, it feels a lot more mellow, not nearly as fishy as it was in previous application. Solid vegetable stir fry. How's our premium squid? I'm gonna go back to red boat for a sec. I'm going back and forth because the difference is starting to become very, very slight. And it's no longer like, ooh, obvious. So that tells you something. So one final bite of squid and then I will tell you. I do like squid better. I can't really explain why, but I just feel like it comes out a little bit smoother, a little less fish sauce forward, which kind of makes sense because red boat has 4 grams of protein. That means it's more fish saucy, like it's more concentrated fish sauce. So the fish sauce flavor is stronger, but they're both very good. And obviously, like, I'm having a hard time now deciding. Abalone, our favorite so far. Still very good. But yes, the difference is starting to be less now because cabbage itself has a little bit of sweetness. So now it's no longer the only thing that's got a sweet flavor. Like if I go back to squid, no, I still like it better. It's still got just a better flavor, smoother in general, but what's the word I'm looking for? Splitting hairs now. All right, this is the one I'm excited to try. Maple Bourbon 50N. Let's see. No bourbon detectable in the smell. That's actually really good. I'm so surprised. Interesting. So that fermented funk is gone. Now, when we were cooking it, it was like in the air. So I think it's all evaporated. And the bourbon is also gone. But what's left is a very rich fish sauce flavor that is very, very nice. Like, I feel like this is now obviously like the highest concentration of umami of all of this. Before, it was, I think, being distracted by all sorts of other things. But now it can really show through. So actually, plot twist, this is my favorite one, the maple bourbon one in this application. But the bourbon is gone. So now you're like, well, you know, why did I pay money for the bourbon and now it's gone, but the fish sauce is good, and you know, so just I'll leave that with you. So this is a good time for me to mention that Red Boat does make a 50N fish sauce, so same fish sauce, that is not aged in the maple bourbon. Like it's an unflavored version. So I haven't tried with this one, obviously, but if this is indeed just the same fish sauce, one's flavored, one's not flavored, this is cheaper. So I don't see a reason why you need to splurge on the flavored one if you're going to cook with it and the flavor is going to be all gone. This might just be a better choice. They also have a hickory smoked one also, by the way, just as an FYI, so if you want to try that out. But to keep our test simple, I want to just try it with one. Not sponsored. And now for our plebeian squid fish sauce. Let's see how it stacks up. It's great. I'm totally satisfied. Like, if you ask me right now, would I spend whatever many dollars more for that? No. Like in this application, like this, it just hits the spot. Totally enough. I'm going to taste it side by side with the maple bourbon. I mean, yes, it does taste richer, does taste more umami. But like, if I wasn't doing a side-by-side test right now, there is no way I would be able to tell, like, oh, like, this is better than the one I had last week that was made with the regular fish sauce. I'm totally satisfied with this. So that's good news, everybody. I've just saved you all so much money. So what is my takeaway after all of this? My takeaway is that there are times when a first press fish sauce definitely makes a difference, and Condiment was a very good example of that. We didn't cook it, we used it in a relatively pure form, and man, that abalone Condiment was very good. So this is my nampla of choice for that application. But then there are times when it just doesn't really make that much of a difference, such as when you are going to cook it over high heat. And that dish, by the way, we only used one ingredient as a seasoning. Imagine if you're making a stir fry and you started putting oyster sauce and sugar and all sorts of things. Like, I can imagine that the difference is going to just be pretty much gone by then, right? So in that situation, probably not worth the extra cash. So I'm gonna stick with my regular fish sauce for all the cooking, and then upgrading to the first press only when I'm using it as a condiment. And that is it. I hope you found that interesting. If you have tried these and you've got thoughts and opinions, of course, share it with us in the comments below. A special thanks to all of our Patreon members who help support the show. If you want to know what that's all about and how you can get direct access to me in our Discord, check out the link in the description below. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time. สวัสดีค่ะ